Oh, so but what do you think of that thinking though? Because that scientifically seems like it's proven now. It's getting proven more and more. Gabor Mate talks about it.
What?
That basically like, and we've talked about this before kind of, but like differently, I guess. But basically that like your issues today, if you want to overcome like, if you're given into to temptation, let's say.
Yeah.
Gabor Mate said, if you're addicted, if you're given into temptation, we have a mentality of take your addiction and Gary V it. You're of the Gary V. You have a Gary V mentality. You want to attack it.
Yeah.
So that's probably what you would think. But a lot of people think that in America, Western culture is like you attack the thing, you discipline, you fight it, whatever.
Yeah.
Gabor Mate, Buddha, I think Jesus too, says, go back to the child version of you and say, I love you. And then the addiction will disappear. The addiction's you've never heard of this, eh?
I completely disagree with this. Okay.
Apparently it's very scientific.
No.
There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Don't say that. Don't say
that.
Apparently it's very scientific. I'm going to start using that in all the arguments I ever have. Say a point, be like, actually, you're wrong. Apparently that's a very scientific thing to say.
Okay, so Gabor Mate teaches
scientists are saying, very Trump, actually. Scientists are saying that everyone's saying it. All the biggest scientists called me.
All the big scientists
all agreed.
No, there's some great studies coming in. It's just it's starting, but it seems like it's not bad. Like
okay, I've done some thinking on this. Can I? This is very similar to. Have you heard of Johan Harari? Or the guy who's like
Yuval Harari.
Not Yuval Harari. Johan. What's his?
You're going to be like, oh, you don't know Johan? He owns a pyramid scheme in Israel or something.
No. He wrote a book about addiction.
Right.
Yeah, it's not Harari. It's Johan. It's Johan Hari. Okay.
Johan Hari.
So he wrote a book called Lost Connections, and then he also wrote a book called Chasing the Scream.
Yes.
Basically a lot about how addiction is partly fed by not just the pleasure, whatever. It's a lot of it's caused by not having connections to society, not being grounded in society. And that a lot of addiction is basically loneliness and disconnection. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this theory is probably part true, right? Like obviously it does seem to be that a lot of addicts, and that's where maybe like loving yourself or whatever would like come and solve the hole. But I think there's another side of this too, right?
Yeah.
I like my thesis on addiction and all the scientists agree.
And all the scientists, okay.
Is the following.
Okay.
You come to drugs, alcohol, all addiction for the like connection, for the like healing or like the like self-abolition of just like kind of escapism. But you stay, so you come to heroin for the connection, but you stay for the heroin, right? So you come for, so that's the thing about addiction is like you can't just look at it as like a social problem because it's not addressing the fact that heroin feels great and you're going to continue to do stuff that makes you feel great, right? You may have gotten into this to plug a hole in your life, but eventually you have to deal with the very real like chemical hooks.
Yeah, there is chemical hooks in sugar too. Sugar is very addictive.
Well, sugar and heroin are on slightly different, I would say, playing fields of like, okay, there's heroin and then there's
I mean, if you look at how much sugar kills people in a sense too, like I would say
we're not
it's
talking
almost like
about
different.
We're talking about
cigarettes, whatever, cigarettes, alcohol. I'd say they're all bad. They're all things that you can try to quit. People are struggling to quit. And apparently, now look, there's different scientists. I get it. Different scientists do different things. But apparently the most powerful technique is the childhood forgiveness. That's what they're saying now. It's very new. I don't know. There's no way to prove it.
Yeah.
There's no way to prove it. You almost just got to try it and see if it feels right for you. But it does. I guess it is maybe more like, how could they ever prove stuff like that? Like even Gabor Mate does talk about how like a lot of current disease, and he is a doctor and he does study at, like, we're talking about working doctor and like a professor at in Canada, but like just internationally renowned. He's like going around the world, whatever. But I don't know how he's measuring it. Like, how do you measure it? Like how do you measure that like your depression or like your sadness or your anger or whatever, it was coming from this? And then how, I don't think anyone's like doing one meditation. They're like, I'm healed. It's just a lot of people are getting a lot out of the therapy, I guess. And it seems like that is what a lot of people call the work of healing, is like going back to fix that, and then that kind of automatically fixes everything else.
Yeah, that's probably. I have heard. I've listened to a lot of people like talk about their addiction. It does seem like you have two sides to it. You have kicking the addiction, then you have like healing the underlying problem. Like it's like you did the thing. You did your addiction to mask the problem, but then when you get rid of the addiction, you still have to do the work. Like that's what you mean by do the work. Is like
they jump around,
deal with the problem itself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're saying like sugar's not on the level, but like sugar is actually the thing that they could survive on. I'm saying like, I know a lot of people that went through Alcoholics Anonymous, and they do the same joke every time. They're like, we got cake in the back, take out the booze, put in the sugar. It's just like chemically, they just switch right over. And I've heard heroin addicts have a similar thing too. They switch over to sugar, maybe. I don't know. But it is like you're jumping because you haven't fixed the underlying issue. So then, yeah, the real work is going after that. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
it's hard to tell.
There is also the fact that like humans just want they want something. I mean, there is a challenge to if you just get rid of every single thing that makes your body feel good.
Interesting.
Like I'm like a kind of a subscriber that like everybody needs or.
Suffering.
No, not needs. How would I say this? It's much easier to quit an addiction when you have an addiction to fall back on than it is to quit an addiction as your I think it's very hard to get rid of the last addiction, the last form of escape and etc. Because if I get rid of one thing, I can still go to this and like I can still substitute. But I think the challenge that you're talking about is getting from 1 to 0 is much harder than getting to like 5 to 4 or 3 to 1. I think.
I feel like weed is sometimes I feel like telling people who drink too much, like just smoke weed, man. You're killing yourself. The calories, because then people like I know people who drink and then they have diabetes too. So it's like there's this sugar thing and whatever. It's like if you smoke the weed, and if you smoke like indica, let's say before dinner. You'll eat the dinner, you won't overeat, and you'll call it a night. Like it gives you that satisfaction without taking in all these calories. I feel like
it should be said that you work at a weed store, so you might be considered.
There you go.
Biased, but
yeah. No, it is weird because you can't prove it. You almost just have to go in and feel it, and yet, Baba Sam Harish, he is teaching child forgiveness. It's on his app. Child forgiveness, loving kindness is his second class that he teaches, and then it's like they have child forgiveness meditations, and then they have like just general well-being, like wishing, like another thing that they say is very scientifically proven to be very healthy for you is just sitting there saying may you be healthy, and like picturing people and sending them love is actually really good for depression. And then compassion too, because then when you're compassionate about other people who are suffering more than you, then your brain can't think about your suffering. So for those moments, your suffering gone, it's technically depression gone.
All the scientists are saying it, guys.
All the scientists are saying it. I mean, this is what I'm getting from the Baba Sam Harish app, and he's the king of the atheists. Once was anyway. I don't know today.
People say weed makes me paranoid. Cigarettes and booze here. They give people years for weed where I live. We all have addictions. It's only natural. The only problem is if it takes over your life. One can easily kill you in high doses. The other one is near impossible if you try. Very polarizing topic.
I know, right? Like, what do you think of that? What do you think of weed legalization? Are you on that side of like, what is this? These hippies with their green grass? Are you there or were you?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough. I used to be quicker with my responses, but I feel like I don't know enough.
Yeah, that is tough.
I'll give you my old like, but yeah, it's with all the kind of context of it being illegal forever. So I don't, and I've never done it. So I mean, with that lack of knowledge stated, my thought is for sure decriminalization. Legalization seems to me like, I think all forms of drug legalization are a form of government endorsement as well. Like when you're like, right. Oh yeah, just sell this everywhere. It's almost weird to me that Like cigarettes
Canada.
cigarettes, if they were illegal and you were thinking about legalizing them now, there'd almost be no way you could convince people to do it.
Never.
But the only reason they're legal is because they like have been. And so, hey, I guess it's whatever. But my thought is, I think a lot of people, a lot of the friends I've seen that have gotten really into weed, they don't end up. It hasn't been a net positive on their life. I'll put it that way.
I'll say this. There's two types of people I know. There is the lazy weeder. That I do understand what you're talking about.
But that's most of the people I know. I know one guy who's like, he's actually, it's probably like helping him, get more creative and all this stuff. And he's like, super successful now, whatever. And he's totally got it on lock. But my thought is, when you ask me like, well, booze is not usually a net positive on people's life either. I don't have a good response to that. And like the only thought, it's sort of the cigarettes thing where you go, yeah, it's kind of a net bad for most people. People still like it. People like to feel good. Who are you to tell them they can't? I'm a scammer. Gonna rip you off, take you down.